Good evening and welcome to the March 23rd work session of the Hillsborough Town Board of Commissioners. Are there any changes to the agenda? Not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kathleen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And on to appointments. And we have one appointment in front of us, appointment of Megan Kibble as town representative for a partial term ending June 30th, 2027 for the planning board.
Move to approve as presented.
Is there a Kathleen? Thank you, Rob. All in favor?
I
Any opposed? And on to consent agenda number 4.
move to approve as presented.
Kathleen?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And on to number 5, in-depth discussions and topics. Our first thing today is a special event permit for Wooden Nickel Pub's Swansea Day. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Jen.
I think so. The event organizers here can help correct us if needed. Is there a way for me to pull up the layout? Or I just need the layout. Yeah.
It's rough. Sorry. You look great. And early.
Oh, I've got it. Yeah, we got 5.
You wrote low, just wait.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I just wanted Sarah to go ahead and pull up the layout so we can see kind of a better bird's eye view of what we're discussing tonight. So this came in a little bit last minute, but I think the Wooden Nickel was given an opportunity to do a very cool event. Only a handful of bars in the United States get invited to do this. And we do have Dean here from Wooden Nickel, so he's gonna come up and answer any questions that you all may have. But we had to get this in quick and get it on tonight because there's only one other town board meeting and it is not until April 15th, which is way too close to this event for them to be able to plan. They kind of needed to know yay or nay on using this parking lot. For some background, this parking lot area is not owned by the town, but the town does lease it in order to keep the parking free and open to the public. The town does not own this portion right here. That is owned by the Caldwell Banker folks, but part of the leased area is this secondary entrance. So this is the entrance from King Street, and there is another up here onto Turton Street that goes near the Hillsborough Police Department. So the applicant is Wooden Nickel Pub. They are located in this space. They do have some outdoor dining here and along the frontage. They are anticipating that this event is going to be so large that they are going to need some additional space in order to host it. They are able to extend their premises through ABC to contiguous area, meeting area that touches their business. I know that there was some ideas. Why don't they have it over here? Why don't they have it over there? It's kind of hard to serve beer like across the street. I don't think ABC would let you do that. You can certainly ask, but I don't think they're gonna let you. You kind of have to be able to walk, not cross the street, not go real far with the alcohol. They are planning on fencing in the area shown in red. They have some plans for some tents and some additional porta potties because people are going to be drinking a lot of beer. They're going to need to use the restroom, probably more so than what they have available indoors. We did receive some comments and I wanted to point those out. The reason you all are seeing this on your regular agenda versus consent is this is kind of a special thing. It's not something that we would normally do. Closing this parking lot because it is going to be like a very busy kind of peak April afternoon. If it's nice weather, it's going to be busy downtown. We received comments from Public Space that just had some concerns about closing the secondary entrance on a busy day. All the egress and ingress to the parking lot is gonna have to come from Turton Street. The parking lot is utilized by numerous businesses and visitors. And there is some concerns from Public Space about traffic backing up to enter and exit from Turton when, even if people realize the lot is full. I think we've all know that tourism, I was telling the event organizers, tourism has a sign that says lot is full. We also have one that says deck is full. We can put out, but some people will still pull in there anyways, just to see if there might be a space.
There might be that one spot.
There might be that one space. and heaven forbid you have to walk a few blocks. This plan does keep the ADA parking spaces open, which is kind of a plus. And also the ADA routes out through the alley and onto Churton Street and up to the northern end. But the ADA route to King Street would not be maintained. So that's an important thing to note as well. You may have to, if you have accessibility needs, you would have to go. And if you wanted to say, you know, go to Antonia's, you would have to go down this way and around this way versus this direction. The Hillsborough Police Department, Andy indicated that kind of had the same concerns as Public Space did with traffic backing up on Churton Street. Also, some concerns about setting a precedent by allowing one business to close the parking area. You know, are we going to allow other businesses to do this in the future? And then concerns that the egress issues could potentially affect PD being able to get in and out of Hillsborough Police Department, which we could talk more about. Options for that as we plan for the event. And then some concerns about, you know, if there are patrons who rely on that lot because they have accessibility needs, it may be harder for the businesses that day for them to get to the business. There's also some concerns that if people really aggressively try and get out of in and out of the parking lot, that they could back up traffic through town. EMS and Orange County Fire also shared the same kind of concerns about ingress and egress. And they would like to work with the event organizer, if approved, to kind of figure out a way, like if someone has a medical emergency inside the closed off area, how they would easily be able to move barriers and get in and out to that person. And I think these are all things we can probably work through. We just haven't had time to do so because the event is upcoming quickly. So I'm not sure if the event organizer wants to come up and talk any more about the event or. Come on up. Sure. Answer any questions I may not be able to.
Sure. Hi, everyone. This came to us, as Shannon said, somewhat last minute, but it is a sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity for us. This event is hosted by a brewery in Belgium. The beer is very rare. They invite very, very small amount of bars to participate. And we were lucky to have received the invite. It's going to attract an awful lot of people to town, a lot of interested beer fans. We've been contacted from folks out of state. There's a similar event happening in Charleston. Otherwise, I think those are the only two happening in the South. So there's 28 bars in the US hosting this event, and there's only 97 in the world. And it is part of a global toast where the beer that they have offered to us for this event will be tapped at all 97 locations at the same time on the same day. Basically a big global cheers. So knowing that, we understood pretty quickly that our space was not going to be quite big enough to host this. And then knowing the constraints of our liquor license, that we had to, you know, more or less expand our borders, so to speak. Our first inclination, as Shannon kind of touched on, was to go straight out from our space, which would have taken the ADA spaces away, and I think inconvenienced that parking lot even more. So this plan, in conjunction with Stuart Painter, who owns those private spaces, was sort of a plan to keep that parking lot as open as possible and to just contain ourselves to that bottom area. And as the picture lists, we intended to have a small stage at the bottom. One reason for putting that there would be to, in essence, make it pretty clear that that wasn't going to be an entrance for the day. Signage, I think, is also part of that, and the red borders would all be bordered with a white picket fence that's about, you know, in about 5-foot segments that's really easy to move around. So if there was a situation where police or EMS needed to enter really quickly, I think we could make that happen without much trouble.
Thank you. Let's go around the table. Rob, do you have any questions or?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So the only area that we're blocking off the parking lot is the red area. The rest of the parking lot is going to remain open.
Correct.
For parking.
Correct.
Okay. And what's another question? I thought I read somewhere where you did get permission from to use those Coldwell Banker parking places.
Stuart Painter owns those, not Caldwell Banker. And yeah,
Okay, so
we have receive permission from him, yes.
Okay, all right. No, it seems like, no, I don't really have any other questions. It sounds like a really cool event. But my only concerns are kind of what public space and the PD brought up. Would PD still have access to the lot? With enough ability, obviously, to get in and out of it. But it sounds like, you can probably work those things out, so.
Yeah, if I may, I think Chief Jason can attest as well. On a normal Saturday, the parking lot's pretty full.
Yeah.
We're talking about taking away, I think, 7 spaces, which are private anyway, and don't tend to be occupied much on the weekends because they're pretty clearly listed as, we'll tow you if you park here. That is definitely a busy entrance on a weekend, but the top entrance is just as busy too. And I think that, all locals know that you can enter from both directions. I think a lot of locals also think you can exit from both directions. It might be, well, you have to. It might be nice for one day to not have to deal with people driving down the one way.
And so there's that one. It's not really, I think, an entrance, but there's that one little public lot on the corner. Would that be in entrance and egress, or just, I know there's like a speed bump between PD and that parking lot?
So speaking with some staff today, we thought about potentially even barricading off the police department parking lot. So that way from Tryon Street, we can easily get in and out if we need to.
Yes.
And that way we don't have to worry about people accidentally running through our parking lot and trying to find parking spaces where they shouldn't be as well. So I think we can mitigate the issue pretty well.
So a question then.
If it helps you, we could certainly add a few more pieces of that rental fence to accommodate your area and just help you block that off.
We'll reach out if when it comes to that, when we get everything together. I appreciate you operating there.
So I guess the only other question I have is, it lots full, would you have somebody there basically manning that so people aren't continuing to kind of come, or is it just?
Correct. Yeah, I mentioned to Shannon that we recently co-hosted a much larger event than this in Durham, and it was in a parking lot, as a matter of fact, and having volunteers at those points to sort of direct.
Yeah, just to help with, no, can't go, then,
That would be our intention, yes.
Thank you.
Question for Dean, how small this small stage are you envisioning? Just because if the barricades can be moved easily to allow that egress. You also have a stage proposed in the middle of it as well, so is that also going to be fairly portable?
It is, and yes, and it's hard to put this in the picture exactly, but we positioned it off to the side a little bit so that we could still leave the sidewalk and a little bit of the road space open. So again, if we needed to move the barrier and let a vehicle in real quickly, we could do that.
And then for Shannon, I didn't hear one from economic development, so I'll ask you, since you're sitting here, just about any potential negative downside with local businesses. I don't anticipate that many of them get deliveries and such on Saturdays, but
Probably not. One of the conditions that we suggested is that the event organizer notify all the adjacent businesses and let them know kind of when they're going to be setting up and when they're going to break down, so that they'll know, so that they can share concerns, and also so they can let their patrons know. I think there are pros and cons to economic development and tourism wise. I mean, obviously this is a really big event. It's really a good opportunity for Hillsborough, kind of puts us on the map with places like Charleston, which is much bigger. But yeah, we are cognizant of the fact that this may potentially negatively impact other businesses in this area, and that they're gonna need to plan for this. But I think, we've got a month and some change that hopefully we can get through it. I think as well as I do that there are probably gonna be some business owners that are fine, great, whatever, move on, and others that are unhappy, so.
yes, there are some people who are upset when their stores or restaurants are full after the Christmas break, but we'll leave it there. I think I feel good. I don't have any overriding concerns. I think it's okay to try something new. I'm not adverse to something being precedent setting, because we ultimately get to look at each one individually and whatnot. It's not like it's going to be a rubber stamp for similar things if it doesn't jive with what we're looking for. But I think think this is an interesting idea. I wouldn't be opposed to it. As long as we can remedy some of those concerns that, you know, EMS and police particularly have. And then from the tourism angle, like, it was great. If you, what's the furthest north, there'll be a, do you know the furthest north a bar would be serving this?
Furthest north country or?
No, city.
Virginia.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's definitely, Philadelphia, New York City. I don't think any further north than that. Off the top of my head, I can send you the list.
Okay,
It's
so-
a really good list.
We're on the map for several hundred miles in either direction,
Yeah.
so I don't know, I think that's interesting and makes us support it a little bit. Unfortunately, I'll be out of town.
Thank you, Matt. So you answered the questions that I have and, yeah, agreed with managing the concerns of access to the in and out onto Churton was that it's already a problem turning, especially turning left at the parking lot to go north on Churton Street. So, if staff and HPD and, are confident they can manage that, that's good. And I would say, Shannon, that this could be, you know, it is a special event. We've never had this request in all my years on the board, but it could be a learning experience. So, yeah, take note of what works, what didn't work. Because something else may come back in the future.
Just wanna make Bill inspired.
That's all I have. Right.
I think with the previous questions, and what came out of that, I really don't have anything more. I was wondering about like, you know, I think that's been answered about like the timing and stuff, like the stage and how well that might be if it was later in the evening, but in peak times it's till 5 o'clock and that'll probably be fine, so there's nothing else jumping out, I think. By Chief mentioning using Tryon, that's gonna help a lot. Yeah, I don't have anything more, thank you. I think it just sounds pretty cool though.
Yeah, I think this is very cool. You know, with tourism and the other businesses though, I want to see us do package deals. We do a horrible job in our town overall about package deals with other businesses. You know, heads and beds. So, you know, having deals teaming up with other businesses, other restaurants with lodging. So that other businesses can capitalize. Because one thing about events like this, what I don't want to have happen is, because some businesses are more amenable for these kind of events than others, but how can we spread the wealth? And in doing that, I think it also with the extra publicity that those businesses can do, it actually ends up increasing overall turnout and everyone gets more business. So that would be, you know, that and my other questions have been addressed in terms of the concerns.
Thank you, Kathleen. Just one more thing to point out to you, and that is, I don't think you've ever done an event in downtown that I can remember where you had amplified music. So just be sure and work with town staff about that. There are regulations on that and.
We've got the same folks who host River Park concert working with us to coordinate all that. And,
I do have another question.
Well, I think it's different from River Park. Concert.
Oh,
We're
no,
talking about sound limits and
sure,
time of day and noise ordinances.
I mean, we have folks who are gonna volunteer with us who have tons of experience setting all that stuff up. That's not my area of expertise, so I'm gonna lean on them for guidance on that, but.
But even so, whether it's River Park, it's still gonna be music, it's gonna be outdoors, it's downtown, it should be no big deal.
Yeah, the timing of it, I was.
Yeah, it's Saturday. I'm like.
We
I
have to
actually,
apply the ordinances evenly.
I
So
know,
I'm just
we
saying,
do, but I'm just saying if it's the same people, it's the same ordinance, it's still sound. It should be, the tricky part will be the buildings and the reverberation and bouncing off where you get amplified sound that we don't have in the open space. The physics will be a little different, but my question is actually, because I'm always thinking of Plan B. And this is where the ALE laws and rules go, is depending on the crowds. Is it possible to do something like this in another venue that's larger around town?
I think it would be challenging for the Wooden Nickel, and you can speak to this, but they have their kitchen and all their equipment
No,
and
I
everything in
understand
building,
that,
so they
but
would
I'm
have to,
thinking some bigger picture here.
like a
and so-
tent and.
Yeah,
Yeah, you potentially could, if you could find a space large enough, you could rent tents and you could get an ABC, special event permit for a one-time premises. That's very similar to like what River Park does. They
Okay.
get an ABC permit for that one day. But I think this would be challenging for Wood Nickel to move their operations to a remote.
no,
location.
I totally understand that, but I love this idea. I think that it really could draw significant numbers, and the other piece related to that, are you prepared with shuttle services and parking elsewhere?
We certainly intended to guide folks towards the parking deck. I don't know yet, once, when and if we proceed with this, we would release ticket sales. For some advance information, I think that if we were able to ascertain where some of these people were coming from, we could certainly deal with that. I just have no frame of reference for who's gonna want to come to this and from
And I
how
was
far
actually
away.
going to ask if you were going to have a registration to see what your numbers were,
Certainly.
so that you could prepare shuttles and again, the type of packages together.
The beer itself, which is being released to us, is coming in a very finite amount. And so
Okay.
the ticket sales will be for specific pours of that
Okay,
special beer. And we are counting on that selling out well in ahead of time. There will be other things going on as well, of course, and the music and all of that. But I think we'll know exactly who's coming for that beer before the event happens, if that makes sense.
because I would imagine there are gonna be people coming even if it's sold out just for adjacency.
Yes, and that was also our intention with putting the stage closer to the street, was to attract folks with the music and the vibe and, just to get people coming in to check it out. All of our marketing will be very clear and say that this is a free event open to anyone, but the beer itself is ticketed. That makes sense.
I'll make a motion to approve the special event permit for
Second.
the. Did I pronounce it
You
right?
did?
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, one more question. So you're talking about, encouraging people to park the parking deck, but is it possible to find some other alternative parking also, or suggest, like from our parking studies, some other
Some other
lots that we
venues,
might be
yeah.
able to use if that gets full?
Yeah, we can do that.
That, again, that's part of, to me, it's part of the shuttle, so you got the whole park and the. having
Yeah, and I
that
just think with that, every event that we kind of have here, if we don't take advantage of these other lots that.
Exactly.
I think you're doing a disservice to everybody that's coming, so I think something like this, we take advantage of some of those alternative sort of sites that aren't necessarily utilized. Saturday, that it might, the future, help, show people where some of those places are. Thank you.
And I wanted to clarify, Commissioner Durab's motion, it was the motion to approve with the staff recommended conditions and the conditions you all have discussed tonight. Yes.
Minutes, the question and just.
Yes.
Everything we discussed, but they.
Any further questions or conversation? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda, annexation, interest letter for 211 and 213 Rencher Street. This is a voluntary, non-contiguous request. And I don't see Molly here. So Shannon, I guess you're gonna do.
I'm up, put on a different hat. Okay, so, this evening we do have the applicants here that are gonna come up and answer some questions about this, but this is a very interesting proposal. So these properties are at the end of Rencher Street. If you're not familiar with Rencher, it is just north of town. It is within the town's, ETJ, but it is not within town limits. The applicant is interested in doing a small subdivision as well as extending Rencher Street. And they would like to request annexation in order to receive water and sewer services for those additional lots. They do currently, I believe, have a tap at this existing lot right now for both water and sewer. Bryant is here to correct me on that. But these additional lots that they would be creating do not have water and sewer service, nor do they have road access. I believe the pavement stops somewhere in this vicinity. So this is an interesting parcel and an interesting project. Town got information from the applicant about this, discussed internally a little bit. And I think you saw in the packet that, it's a small tract. This would be a voluntary annexation. It is non-contiguous. So these properties don't actually touch anything within town limits, and it's pretty far away from the closest property that is in town limits. And staff is just not sure that it's going to be contiguous for a very long time. I'll just remind everybody that we only have so much legally that the state allows us to annex as a satellite. So the concern would be in annexing this, that we're taking on satellite that we don't think it's gonna become contiguous for a very, very long time. So we can do satellite, and then once it touches town limits, it's no longer satellite and we can stop counting it. So we did look at that. The small subdivision would be aligned with the future land use designation of small lot residential. The property is already zoned R10, so it could potentially be split up into smaller lots. It would just be the challenge without water and sewer is that you can't do smaller lots because you do have to account for that septic area. Trying to think of something. The other challenge I think with this property is that if we were to annex it and they were to extend this road, DOT maintenance stops here. We would have to work out with DOT who is gonna maintain the remaining road and cul-de-sac that would need to be put in. I assume that DOT would probably tell us it's us since we annexed it. That may create challenges on maintaining Renter Street with having DOT responsible for the first 3/4 and then the town responsible for the last little bit. The other thing is if we annex this parcel, we would be providing police and trash service. So we would have to send a trash truck up here to serve these 10 to 12 lots. And so town staff, I think, just doesn't think at this time that annexation is in the town's best interest. We do have Bryant here and the applicant, and I'm sure the applicant has things that they want to share about this as well.
Okay. Before you leave, Shannon, are there any questions from the board to Shannon regarding any of that technical information?
No, because she's addressed the questions that I have.
Megan, do you have any questions for Shannon?
No, the wandering lane doesn't go all the way through though, just to confirm that, right? That's a dead end, or a
Yeah,
wandering trail, I guess, right? Is that, at first I thought it connected to the northern part, but that's a dead end also, is not the actual street. I was like, wandering trail.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That took me a minute too. I was
The
like, I don't
name-
the pavement of Renter just kind of stops.
Yeah.
And this isn't atypical for a lot of the like 40s, 50s, 60s, some subdivisions. I think people kind of bought them in chunks. And then once they got to develop their chunk, they paved their frontage. So we have a lot of these that just kind of stop. But yes, the right of way extends the whole way to the Orange County Schools property, but the pavement stops, and DOT has said that they have not accepted beyond that pavement. So at this time, it's kind of no man's right of way, which again is not uncommon. We call them paper streets. We have them all over town where it looks like there should be a road there, but it's woods because it was just never built.
I was talking about the one that hits north-south, but that one I don't think goes through either, so. That's really the only question, because I couldn't tell with the map at first.
And Shannon, I think I know the answer to this, but I think I'll ask it anyway, and that is, with this area where this proposed development is it connectable to the rest of the town? Or is it truly?
No, that Renter Street dead ends, and then the property on the other side of it is a school property, so. Potentially, if the school redevelops and wants to put some type of a through road in, they could, but it would probably remain kind of a dead end cul-de-sac.
That's what. The other one isn't gonna go through either. Yeah, it's not a very.
Yeah, they're proposing to stub it, but schools generally always stay schools. or school owned or school operated. Even if the school closes and they tear it down, they tend to repurpose the land. Lincoln Center is one that comes to mind.
Man,
I don't have any questions, aside from the satellite annexation component. And just continuing to go through the idea that we typically don't like to see private roads anymore. That not only would we be doing trash and, police service, but also, this would be part of our streets plan at some point, and it's kind of weird that we would be responsible for the last part of a road, because that's technically in town, but the rest of it's out of town. I see a lot of, strangeness with this, request, for annexation. But I don't have any questions. And also the fact that, to me, there's a disparity in, folks who currently live there see themselves as part of Hillsborough. The other end of the street actually is in Hillsborough. They get services that others don't. It's just not something that makes me very comfortable.
thank you, Matt. Rob, any questions for Shane?
The only question I have, Shane, is that closest property within town limits on this map?
No, I'd have to zoom out considerably to yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a good bit away.
Okay, yeah, that's all I need, yeah, so.
Yeah, the closest one would maybe be down here at the very corner of the northwestern side of the Gatewood property. I think, is that what that is?
Solid question.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for that.
Yeah, just is it there PowerPoint? That's. Oh,
No. What was open?
Yeah.
was-
oh, I was full.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I messed you up.
I-
Took through your slide anyway.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chris Rakowski with Rakowski Land Planning. Submitted this kind of request for our intent to annex these two parcels, and I think there's still some confusion on our end as well, because we didn't realize till today that the parcel to the south actually has an existing house on it that's boarded up, but already has utilities. So it's got water and sewer services already to it. So I'm not really sure if that is already annexed into the town limits or not, and we're only talking about the northern piece. But I will say all the rest of the homes on Rencher, I believe, are already provided services from the town of Hillsborough: water, fire, sewer, and trash services. So I don't think it's a real stretch to add, 12 additional single family lots at the end of a street that was originally supposed to stub through. So I'm just kind of looking at when I zoomed out to kind of look at this location. The school was clearly kind of put in after the fact, after kind of the original, grid system of streets were put in probably in the early part of the century. So this is just a dead end street. There's about 300 feet of paper street that just dead ends at the school itself. So our request is to kind of annex or provide water and sewer services and bring these parcels into the town of Hillsborough so that we can subdivide up to 12 lots, which is allowed by the existing zoning R10. So our existing conditions, there's like we said, there's an existing house. It's actually boarded up because there's been a lot of vandalism and issues with that. So the homeowners actually boarded it up, and it's not currently occupied, but there are, like I said, there are water and sewer services there. Our intention would be to bring the end of Rencher Road to current standards with a cul-de-sac or fire turnaround that would be approved by the fire marshal in the town of Hillsborough, with 12 lots that kind of come from that. So we think this is an opportunity for the town to, increase its tax base, 12 new single family homes. These homes would be targeted towards workforce housing. They'd probably be in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, depending on, what improvements we need to make. I think we'd certainly be open to this discussion about Rencher Road and whether it's private or public. And it would be built to DOT standards. So I think kind of with that, I kind of open up to you guys for any questions you might have for us or any other considerations.
Thank you. Before we proceed, I'd like to get clarification from, Bryant. Or is this, you said there's one house already in that
Yeah.
area and it has water?
Yeah,
and
so
sewer?
I didn't realize that.
Is that an active water and sewer customer?
We have one active water and sewer customer that right at the end of the pavement. But to be very precise and what we're trying to get at is that there is not frontage across all the lots he wants to create. So he would have to do a water and sewer extension. So the town can allow a water and sewer extension outside of town limits, but you're under no obligation to do so. That's under 1460 of our ordinances. So you have that also that second option.
Okay, thank you. And the other assertion was that the other houses on Renshaw are currently receiving town services, because I don't think that they are, because they complained to me about 4 weeks ago during a snowstorm, and I said, you're out of the town limits.
No, they do not receive town services. They're not within town limits, and Renter Street is a DOT maintained street as well.
So it's water and sewer only on Rancher right now.
Yes, and that's the practice of that we used to do some time ago when we extended water and sewer services outside of town without annexation. We now evaluate these requests on an annexation basis. You may recall that sometimes what happens when we allow these types of developments without annexation, people get water and sewer, the homeowners think that they live in town, they move in, they buy their dream home, they move in, they call to set up their trash service, they're told they don't actually live in the town limits, and they don't get trash service, they don't get to vote for mayor and town board, and they tend to not be happy. But they do have the out of town water and sewer rates.
Thank you. Yeah, Kathleen, do you?
Yeah,
have a question?
you know. This is where, especially in this part of town, you put $300-400 homes, $100 homes next to the other homes. And they're gonna have their property values skyrocket, and a lot of those folks are fixed income. I don't see that's doing service for the area from that perspective. $300,000 or $400,000 is why we call that low, affordable is laughable, because you have to have a hell of an income. To
I don't
do
agree
that.
with you at all.
I am open to water sewer extension out of towns, but as staff has already raised, I anticipate that if that were to happen, the downside is that staff would be inundated having to tell people, no, you're not in town limits. And I want to be mindful of that. All in all, I mean, while I would, if it were like tiny homes, that'd be a different conversation. But single family, which we are trying to go for density, not single family homes, given the location where it does a disservice for the area of fixed incomes, we're not wanting having, and I've seen that in too many places where you have DOT and then a municipal, and you've got very different road conditions, service conditions. We see that all over Fairview where I just don't think this is a good idea, not at this time.
So would you rather see more density?
Yeah.
So you'd rather this be
If
townhomes
it-
or?
No, tiny homes, small homes, and with the 21st century, it's probably feasible.
Mhm. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious to see, like, so obviously it's already zoned R10, so it's
But-
zoned and the town has, future land use, this fits in with both of those plans as current zoning. We're not asking to rezone it to anything denser or less dense, so I'm asking out of my own curiosity, so if more
it
density was the
If
idea.
it were tiny homes, because then you're talking again about income and housing, which is a little bit more commensurate with the existing homes. But once you get the new construction in there, even with townhomes, condos, those price points are such that you're jacking up the values
Mhm.
of the homes around, which right now we're having issues with valuations already. And with the fixed incomes in this area,
Mhm.
I am not convinced at at least as I speak right now,
Mhm.
that this is a good idea at this time.
Fair enough. I guess to follow up with that, like so the existing house is kind of sitting there that matches the rest there that they've had problems with vandalism and kind of condemnation. I mean, what,
That is a problem, but
right,
you know, the trade-off of, you know, $300,000 homes against vandalized homes, which could be bulldozed or other things, it's not it's a false equivalency in my mind.
that's fair.
Thank you, Kathleen. Megan?
Without thinking too much about the water and sewer extension, that actually hadn't entered my mind yet. The option to annex this without a plan to have something else like being non-contiguous for so long and have property so far away from it to become that, I didn't love the idea of sending trash services and all the other services that come along with being annexed to Hillsborough and being so far away. Another thing more about the water and sewer extension only. I'm thinking also about what Kathleen was mentioning, when you look at property valuations for the rest of that street, it is a lot lower than there's.
But that whole area, because it would impact across the street, not just next door into the Fairview, and they're already being.
Mhm. I do like the idea of infill though,
Yeah.
it's a tough one to say. I'm not 100% at all about annexing this property way up there, but. I just think of some other ideas, but I'll go ahead. Let's see if anybody else has anything.
Thank you. Just so you all know, the mayor does not vote, but I'll give you my opinion.
Fair.
Unless I break a tie, but I'll give you my opinion. So I think you've got a lot of obstacles in terms of the satellite annexation. We have lots of conversations about that. We keep a running tab of how much satellite annexation capacity we have left because we have had other offers to take all that capacity. So it's like a really active consideration on our part. So the fact that it would be satellite that's a detractor. Giving half that street water sewer and the other through the annexation and the others not, that would be not fair to the rest of that street. And also from like a density perspective, we're not wanting to see that density north of town. We want to see it south of town. So it's not the right place for even higher density. So I'm thinking you've got a lot of detractors in terms of the overall value proposition to the town for that development and not a lot on the other side. So.
Oh, shoot.
I guess I have a question regarding, we thought this was the pathway forward to get water and sewer to serve these parcels. I was not aware that water and sewer only is an option. Is that a different path or is that the same path? We need to come through the board of commissioners here and request, is that the same authority?
I'll defer to Shannon and to Brian to discuss our urban services boundary. Our capacity model.
Area 2.
I think Brian has kind of spoke to this earlier. The town board does have the option to only offer the water and sewer to these parcels. But then just like I said, keeping in mind that they will pay out of town water and sewer rates and they'll potentially feel like they're in town when they're not. So that would be the only kind of concern that staff would have. And it doesn't solve the extension of Rencher Street. The developer would have to work with NCDOT on what that looked like. And then NCDOT would have to be willing to accept and maintain that extension.
Yeah, this is inside our urban service. You did say it was urban service. This is inside our urban service boundary, so it is an area long-term in the town to say that we would serve. The process though is if they want water and sewer service, they have to do this, they have to request annexation, and you have that option. If it's inside the urban service boundary for our current ordinances, you can decline annexation, but still choose to extend water and sewer service. And to clarify something else, that other people on Rencher Street do have water and sewer service today. So there are water and sewer meters, or are water meters to each house that you see on that GIS right now. So this would be an extension of existing service on Rencher Street, just to clarify.
And so the developer would pay all the costs.
Correct. For the ordinance, they have to pay the full cost of the extension. The town is not participating in that cost. We also, in theory, have to refund any frontage fees. To be clear, we don't have any frontage fees booked on Rencher Street here, so.
No, we're done to see your backup options if we.
Correct, this is a dead end line,
But it already is a dead end line.
correct.
Yeah. Um. I know we had changed some of our policies around annexation, so thank you, staff, for reminding us of that. I would be a definite no on annexation, for many of the reasons we mentioned, mostly the inequity that you would see between providing town services, excluding water and sewer, because that's already there. Then you don't have to be annexed to have those, but everything else, and also tricky, the town would eventually take over this road and going to the snow removal situation. How do you plow a street and only do half of it? And the folks who've been living there 50, 60 years still have snow because for liability reasons, we can't do anything, or legal reasons, because it's outside of town limits. A lot of people would say that just doesn't make sense, in addition to everything else. So I would be fine with extending the water and sewer, to allow these, workforce housing, parcels, and just say no to annexation.
Thank you, Matt.
Rob. I'm also a no to annexation, because of the, non-contiguous, there'd be non-contiguous annexation, those aren't interested really. In supporting it on a project like this, and then the issues again with the being state DOT, and then it would be part, part town maintenance around the road too. It's a tough one for me too. I'm not opposed to extending water and sewer. But I do have some issues definitely with the annexation request. At this time, I feel like this. We're hearing like from staff that this area or the rest of the Renter Street in that area is, probably not gonna be. Annexed anytime in the near future, and so I just feel like the timing is just not quite right for, for this project at this time for annexation.
So I'm hearing consensus that there's no interest in annexation, but at least two commissioners feel that extending water and sewer is maybe worthy of more conversation. Let me ask the other half of the table, how do you feel about just water and sewer? Definitely.
I'm not opposed to extending water and sewer, but I don't like the product being put in. I think it's the wrong product for the lots. I think the damage to Fairview, which is in town limits, it just adds to a problem that we already have. I mean, I just don't think this is a good time for this as proposed. Like I said, if it were tiny homes, it's more to scale, both financially in terms of the cost of buying, cost of ownership. I don't mind some density along those lines there. I would be open to it, but single family homes, townhomes, condos at 300,000 to 400,000 price point, where you've got that next to the next door, it's.
We can shift that there. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm building,
Sir, if you'd like to speak, will you go up and address, let the board know who you are?
I'm sorry. Hey, my name is Bruce Clayton. I've been working with Miss Payne for 6 years now. She had a little project and there were 3 block buildings on Nash Street. We took those down and built 3 nice houses there. I'm not opposed to doing small houses. We're doing some of that in Durham, but we're doing them on 2,500 square foot lots, not large lots. So if that's something that you would like to see, if we can reduce it down, and be glad to put 1,200 square foot small houses like we're building in Durham.
frankly, we don't have enough true starter homes under 2,000 square feet.
I'm not gonna build anything close to 2,000 square feet. On McAdams, we had a lot, and I think that house was 1,400.
Yeah, I'd love to, I mean, if they were like 1,200, you know, these smaller, I'm much more open to, because again, I'm looking for a price point that is affordable for workforce.
Right.
300 to 400,000 on a teacher salary
Well-
ain't gonna happen.
But it's hard to build when you have to put so much money in the infrastructure and you got 100,000 in your lot. How can you build a house and then sell it for 300?
I do understand, which it goes back to my original point. I don't see for what we need and what that property is, I don't think there's a good fit at this time.
Okay,
Cause I do recognize their development costs, you've gotta get your money back. Understand that, but looking at, well, how does this impact community? Once it's in, it's in.
right. No, I understand. And if you're worried about the homes up the street, like I said, I think 1,250 square foot homes would be great. I mean, I'd rather build that, to be quite frank with you. I mean, but I probably need a little more than 10 to make it work.
I mean, I am open, like I said, density there, I am absolute, for me, I'm open to that, but it's, like I said, it's more closer in line with the neighborhood, with the area, and having an eye to what is this, the impact on, you know, the rest of the area.
Right.
Of those values. I do have concerns about existing neighbors and seeing, you know, again, it's why I'm open to water sewer only. One question that I'm not clear from staff and Shannon is how much of an impact do you think that would be on you, when I say you on staff and utilities, fielding the questions? The fact they are getting, water sewer, but no other municipal services. What kind of staff impact?
It's not terribly uncommon as Bryant said, the rest of the street has water and sewer, but is not in town. So that would line up and if, you know, the board does have that prerogative to offer that. But you know, the way that we've kind of been running these is that basically folks have to offer, you know, hey, do you want this property annexed or do we want to do with a water sewer only
Right,
option?
I understand that.
But yeah, the rest of the street, honestly, from my staff perspective, this street is very, if you haven't been down it, you should drive down it.
I've been.
If you haven't been down it in a while, it's a collection of older homes. Also the property right here is like a freestanding garage.
Yep.
There's also some semi-commercial uses. I think one lot on the street is zoned, neighborhood business, has like a barber shop in it. So there's a lot going on Rancher Street, both residentially and commercially. You know, my only concern and that, you know, it's kind of just a mismatched neighborhood, because you are gonna have that mix of like new construction, modern homes with the older homes and some of the businesses. My hope is that anybody who buys, you know, potentially buys one of these lots or one of these homes drives down Rancher Street before they make that purchase. We do have people that buy from out of state sight unseen and end up not happy with the person across the street because they, you know, have a lot of stuff or come and go all hours and.
If you buy it sight unseen.
I know, but we're the ones that hear about it, unfortunately, with code enforcement and everything else. So, I mean, I think it will definitely change Rancher. But we're seeing this happen all over town. Older homes are getting torn down or renovated or added onto, and it's just changing the neighborhood and the fabric of town. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've gotten a lot of new great people.
The mixed use of business commercial, I like, you know, it gives some, a different kind of vibrancy. But it's really, what makes me happy is closer, it's more in scale. And we do need smaller homes. And not all of these freaking McMansions going up. And
Can I chip in real quick here? So I think there was recent session law, and I'm looking to Bob because Bob tracks this stuff better than I do. I don't know that we're allowed to use utility extensions to compel zoning conditions. I do
That's what
think
I
that
was
there's a
gonna-
specific thing now that prevents us from doing that. So I just want to make sure we stay out of the danger zone when it comes to
No,
compelling a lot size and everything like
no,
that.
I'm not, that was not at all what I was.
Right, I just want to make sure
intending.
we're just careful.
Well, no, that
And
was
for
not
Bob,
at
for
all.
Bob's information, we're not talking about zoning. The zoning is R10 and I don't think they're planning on
I
changing.
think there are some appearance things in that statute too. Bob knows the statute better than I do.
If they wanted to do tiny houses on smaller lots, I mean, do we have something available, Shannon? It would have to be planned development or?
They would have to do a plan development rezoning but we will hopefully have options in our new UDO. We
Right.
just made a presentation to the planning board about consolidating our zoning districts and allowing for more flexible lot sizes. Right now, our smallest lot is R10 with the general use rezoning, but we are talking about potentially going to flexible lot sizes, doing a small, medium, kind of large lot with ranges. I think we maybe start in the 3,000 or 4,000 square foot range, which is significantly smaller than our current smallest lot. But we won't have that adopted for probably another year. So that's what we're doing.
I mean, to me, that would be really cool though, is to have, that's your thoughts.
Thank you.
Um,
So the question is, just to
Yeah.
restate, so we're hearing no to annexation, but yes, potentially to water and sewer.
and I think Kathleen brings up some really good, thoughts on, with the extension. On throwing off the neighborhood, at the same time, as Shannon just mentioned, things are changing all over the place, but. I would entertain probably a water extension, short answer.
Well, it sounds like then the majority of the board is willing to consider that. So, Shannon, I'm guessing that, Brian, the next step would be, since there's no willingness to move forward with annexation at the current time, the developer could come back with.
They-
There are more specific ideas about what the request is right now,
They-
it's just kind of a theory.
Yeah, they could come back, or if you all want to think about it some more and have them think about it some more, or this board could potentially make an motion tonight to request that the developer not pursue annexation at this time, but request that the town staff assist them with pursuing water and sewer only extension. Is that
Yeah,
what
the
it says in
next-
Town code, right?
Yeah, that's what it says in the town code. And the next thing that would come to you is a water and sewer extension contract. Just to be clear, though, they would have to be pretty far into design for us to actually frame, like, it calls out specific linear footages and number of taps and stuff like that. So they're pretty far into design at that point. So I think it's very helpful for us to know that this is something that has at least some probability of passing. I hate for them to spend that kind of money on the engineering piece of this and then only for the, commission to say, hey, we're not gonna approve the water and sewer extension contract. So the next step would be water and sewer extension contract if annexation isn't pursued unless there's a middle step of planning.
They would submit their subdivision plans, and so we would go through the TRC process, but this board would not see those plans because the property is already zoned R10. So the property is already zoned correctly. They just don't have the subdivision of lots, but they could probably get this number of lots at the staff level through subdivision.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
to you?
yeah, I think it does. I think it sounds like the space are more or less our. Go ahead. Before I'm sorry.
No, I'm just, when you're done, ready to make
Fair.
a motion.
Fair enough. Yeah, it sounds like for annexation, there's a number of obstacles, including, the end of Retcher Street. And then just kind of the context of it. So, for us, I think we'd be very happy to pursue water and sewer only. Obviously, I think the timing of that would have to make sense, but I think we figured out with you guys, because we'd honestly want to have that, be sure of that before we submitted subdivision plans. But yes, that sounds, I think that's what I'm
So
understanding.
can I have a clarifying?
Yes, please.
So Shannon, so you're saying if we were to approve water sewer extension, then we would get these 10 lots, single family homes as is?
Yes, it's already zoned R10.
By right.
So by right, they could subdivide into the 10,000 square foot lots as long as they had some provision of water and sewer for the sites. And they will still have to extend Renter Street to public standards so that all those lots have access.
Okay.
It may ask another quick clarifying question, that is in terms of water and sewer only. In my memory, those don't come along very often that are successful. How does this compare to other requests for just water and sewer? Seems like a much larger.
Yes, the last one y'all had was out of our urban service boundary, so that was, they were asking for more than water and sewer, they're also basically also asking you to move the boundary, which is a much bigger ask than what this is. This is inside our urban service boundary, so that one, you know, that one wouldn't necessarily apply here. Some of the other water and sewer only ones that are in town limits, you know, I raised some sometimes technical concerns with them, I don't have those here, I think from a getting it to fit in the ground standpoint. You know, at 20,000 feet, it looks to be feasible. You know, obviously they'll have to hire an engineer to do the detailed design, which is something I would review, but generally speaking, like this is I haven't seen one of these since I started here. This is a bit of a new one because it's in town limits, in the urban service boundary. I'm sorry, or ETJ in the urban service boundary, but outside of town limits, so,
And there's
and it's not contiguous.
And there's no pressure issues or any reasons
Right.
why we think we couldn't extend it. So that's another factor that comes in sometimes. Sometimes the reason properties like this didn't end up developing is because there's not enough water. The water lines are too small, there's not enough pressure. And so there ends up being some type of design with flaw with the utility that would make it really hard to get water and sewer to more lots. But I don't think that utilities has that concern here.
And keeping in mind that we've recently had conversations just for the developers' education regarding much larger projects that are maybe contiguous or maybe just slightly outside the boundary or outside, used to be inside the boundary, and we have declined those. So are there other properties in that area that you think might follow suit with this type of development, that this, instead of 10 or 12 units, this could be 30 or 40 or 50?
I don't see a knock-on effect here. I'm looking at Shannon because she knows the area.
You know, anything is possible. And staff will be as helpful as we can, and we will bring all great development ideas to you all for consideration. But there's so many factors that go into whether it would make sense to annex or not annex, whether it makes sense to, you know, whether we can serve it, whether there's rock, I mean, there's just so much that goes into and they're all a little bit different. And I hate to be that kind of vague about it, but every piece of property is different. Some of them have weird shapes, some of them don't have any access to road frontage, or it makes it challenging. So it's kind of hard to say. But I mean, I think we're starting to see, I'll give Oakdale as kind of an example. We're starting to see some of these small subdivisions kind of come in on the smaller tracks. And to some extent, this is, I mean, it's ETJ infill, but it is a little bit of infill like what we're seeing in town as well.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for staff or the development? And do you need a motion from the board to decline annexation, but to
Pursue water and
investigate,
sewer
ask staff to
extension.
investigate further options in terms of water and sewer?
Yes, I think that.
Just ready for a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that you were doing the motion.
No, I move to decline the annexation request and to direct the applicant to move forward with the water and sewer only option.
Second. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Rob. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, item C is stormwater update. Eric, welcome. And staff,
Yes, I brought staff
you
tonight.
got your support.
We have support. Good evening. I just want to start out by saying how excited we are to be presenting tonight. I mean, after all, we are in the midst of our annual Creek Week events.
Yeah.
So this is a Creek Week event, but we're also celebrating 20 years of stormwater. I don't know about some of you, weren't on the board 20 years ago, but it's hard for me to believe that it's been 20 years. So FY 26 marks the 20th year that the town of Hillsborough was issued a stormwater discharge permit from the state. And FY 26 actually marks my 20th anniversary as personally associated with the stormwater program with the town, first as a Orange County employee for the last 13 and a half years, I believe, as a town employee. So we are very, very excited about that. It
I
does
wasn't on the
feel,
board, but I actually remember when Stormworks Water started.
that's great. I remember it too. Although it's hard to get past the last few years, it feels like that we've kind of, that our division's been inundated, no pun intended, with stormwater issues. You've seen a lot of those. But tonight, we want to focus on accomplishments. And so, Sarah, will this work? Does this work, or should I just use it on the operator? Make sure that it, there we go. Which one? Sorry. Okay, very good. Thank you. So we'll talk about what has changed in the last 20 years. I'll share with you some program milestones. Then I want to share some numbers, because those numbers, I think, really tell a great story about the stormwater program. And then I'm going to ask Heather and Claire to come up and just speak a few minutes about some projects that they've been working on. And so what has changed? Well, certainly regulations have changed in the last 20 years. Our permit requirements have changed in the last 20 years. Our stormwater infrastructure is continuing to age, and the cost of maintaining that has gotten more expensive. But when I look back, it's budget and staff that I think are the two biggest things that have changed. So again, back in FY 2006, the town didn't have staff. They contracted with Orange County to develop and implement the stormwater program for the town. And that contract was $85,000 a year. $85,000 a year, okay? Fast forward 20 years, we're at 1.1 million this year. That's what our approved budget is. And a lot of the reason for that change, of course, is that we went from 0 staff contracting with the county to 3 full-time staff, and we still, stormwater funds 1 FTE in public works. And so I think that's explains why it's changed so much, but those are the two things that stand out to me. So town's first stormwater permit was issued in October 2005. So that's FY 2006. That's hard for me not to say 2026, but that's all right. And that permit required the town to develop and implement a program, stormwater program over time. So we didn't have to come right out of the gate doing everything. And so you can look on the board there. I'll just talk about a couple of things. You know, Falls Lake rules implementation. Not going to talk too much about Falls Lake rules tonight. That'll be another topic in the near future. But it's hard to believe that 2012 is when we began implementing those rules. Another one that kind of blew me away when I was putting this little slide together is that it feels like to me that it was just about 2 years ago that I was standing here asking y'all to approve a stormwater utility and fee. And it's 10 years. We've been doing it for 10 years. Remarkable. Our first audit in 2023 was a big one. I don't know if we got lucky or what, because our audit got pushed back a little bit when the state started to do these in earnest, but I'm happy to say we did pass. It did point out some things where we could improve, and that was justification for hiring additional staff. So that's good. And so tonight, here we are celebrating 20 years. Now, I always take this opportunity, whether it's talking to the town board or talking to our citizens, reminding folks what our mission is. So our stormwater discharge permit has one goal. That's to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff pollution entering our storm sewer system. And as everybody in this room knows, our stormwater ends up in the Eno River. So we believe our mission is solely to protect the water quality of the Eno River. And so how do we do that? Well, our permit sort of dictates that we do these 6 minimum measures or program areas. So these are things that we started, like I said, way back 20 years ago, implementing slowly, and now they're fully implemented. But we also do some other things that sort of dovetail into these program areas. We wear a lot of different kind of hats. That's one of the things I think Heather and Claire will both say when through their interview process, that was one of the points I had to make. We're still, even with 3 staff, we're a small organization. We wear a lot of different kinds of hats. So what I'd like to do is just run through these program areas and share 1 or 2 numbers with y'all. You may have already seen them in your packet, but I do want to provide a little bit of context. So our public education outreach, we focus kind of 2 things. First is citizens are providing for the general public to see our programs. And that might be doing presentations to HOAs, garden clubs, our Government 101 class, tabling at Last Friday events. We've done a lot of different things in 20 years. And we've hit over 4,600 adults with those programs. The other side of that is our school programs. And we're fortunate here in Orange County because Orange Soil and Water Conservation District has, it's got to be closing in on 50 years that they've been doing a program called Earth Walk, which is geared towards our middle school, local middle schools. And we've been a part of that for 20 years. And it's a great opportunity. But we've done programs for elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. We've even mentored college students. And as you can see, we've hit in 20 years, over 11,000 students have heard us talk about reducing stormwater runoff pollution. And I think that's pretty incredible. Public involvement and participation. What we're required to do under our permit is to provide volunteer opportunities. And again, the municipalities do it various ways, but we sort of focused in on 2 things. First being planting plants or trees, and the other is trash cleanup. And so we actually started doing riparian buffer. We had volunteers plant riparian buffer trees, seedlings in Gold Park right before it opened. So that was one of the first things we've done. But then all of these other green stormwater infrastructure projects, these watershed improvement projects, we tend to use volunteers to help plant those. And so in 20 years, we've put almost 6,500 plants and or seedlings in the ground. And I think that is remarkable. The other opportunity, trash and litter cleanups. We've sponsored them. We've promoted them. Some neighborhoods come to us and say, hey, we want to do it. And so we'll provide supplies and we'll arrange Public Works to pick up the stuff. And the reason that I like trash cleanups, two reasons. One, the impact is immediate and direct. So when you take piece of trash out of the creek, the river, out of the watershed, right, it's gone. That pollutant source is gone. That's terrific. But the other thing is at the end of the day, when you turn around and see a pile of that stuff and you see all those tires sitting there, you get instant gratification that, hey, we've accomplished something. And oh, by the way, it is Creek Week. We have a cleanup tomorrow at 2 o'clock for employees are invited, but so is the public. And then this coming Saturday, we're doing another one in West Hillsboro focused on Bellevue Branch. So even though in 20 years we've removed almost 64,000 pounds of trash, that's just the volunteers. There's still a lot more out there, and it's crazy. Recently was fishing, and my buddies and I talking about how can these rivers get so dirty? And in some countries, it's acceptable that they just go and take their truckload of tires and dump them into the river. And so we still see that kind of thing happening, but we're gonna attack it this weekend. Illicit discharge and elimination. That is a program that Claire oversees now as our stormwater technician. You see a picture of our I'll call it infamous, Green Creek. This is from the illicit discharge that occurred from the car wash this past December. This is the creek in the cemetery, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. But our first part of our program is really a proactive approach. So we go out, we now have 16 what we call stormwater discharge outfalls. So that's where either a ditch or a pipe discharges. The definition is into a water body. We don't have too many of those, thankfully, but any place a ditch is close to the river or a pipe discharges close to the creek, we have those mapped and we go out and we do dry weather inspections. So the logic is pretty obvious. If it hasn't rained for 2 weeks and something's flowing down the ditch or through a pipe, we need to investigate it. Sometimes it's turned out to be nothing. It's groundwater or somebody's pumping. But in 20 years, we have done 139 dry weather inspections. And then getting back to this picture, the other part of what we do are incidents, what we call incidents. That's how we track them. So these are where, again, a one-off thing happens. We may see them as we're driving about and doing our job, but we also provide training to staff, all town staff, the police department. In years past, we couldn't get it. We did this past year. It's been great. And we've already had calls. We get a lot of calls and emails from our employees saying, hey, Terry, Heather, Clay, I've seen something. This particular incident, I know, Matt, you got contacted. So citizens will contact us. Well, I know 2 other citizens that contacted staff. Staff contacted us. I got calls from both the police department and the fire department. And Claire will talk a little bit more about that project. Thankfully, that's been resolved. And when I mention it's been resolved, we've investigated and we've either figured out who the financial responsible party is or the responsible party, and they've cleaned it up or mitigated it, or we've been able in some cases where really can't do any cleanup, it's already gone, but we provide education and we consider that resolved. And thankfully, this number's not too high, but we have resolved 82 different incidents in the last 20 years. Moving on, construction site runoff control. What the heck is that? That's just another way of saying erosion control. And again, we have an interlocal agreement with Orange County Erosion Control. They provide this part of our program for us, but as we found out in our audit, we can't just let them do it and expect us to be compliant. So we know, and this picture is a really good one of a concrete washout. So if trash becomes a problem on a construction site, if fuel spills, if the concrete washout, in addition to the sediment, if those are issues, those are actually violations of our illicit discharge ordinance. And so we work very closely with Orange County. They go out and do formal inspections, but we do informal inspections. So we actually will drive by. Oh, I see this is catching up with me. I'll come back to the inspections in a moment. I was really curious as to how many acres Orange County had permitted in the last 20 years, how many acres of land disturbance. And you can see that that is 1,000. This is sort of going all by itself. This is interesting. I think it's telling me to speed up. We've been here a while. And you can see that we've done almost 2,500 inspections. I'm going to put this down a second. Maybe it's just me. Thank you. Post-construction runoff control. What is that? Well, that's what we call our new development program. And so when somebody comes in to develop and they're over the thresholds, they have to submit a stormwater management plan and supporting calculations, and we review that and approve it. That's a program area that Heather oversees for us. But again, the point of this is to reduce stormwater runoff pollution from new development. So how do they do that? They install stormwater control measures. So that's things like stormwater ponds, bioretention is pictured here, which is one that the town owns. We even have to do that. Stormwater wetlands, et cetera. And so I think, and Heather, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, so the town did have very few stormwater requirements before we started this program for new development. And there may have been 15 to 20 legacy SCMs that are out there. We had to find them. They're now, are they all compliant now? We're pretty close. We had, that's one of our jobs. But we now have 165 stormwater control measures in the town's jurisdiction. That does include the 7 that Town Hillsborough owns. We inspect those ourselves. We inspect those annually. The other owners, so whether you're Orange County that owns one, whether you're private ownership or a commercial ownership, you have to do a third-party inspection, maintenance inspection annually and submit it to us. So that's, you think 160 some inspections, that's a lot. But guess what? Not only do we have to review those and figure out who's compliant and who's not, we are required in our permit and under the Falls Lake rules to go out and look at those. And we try to look at each one, put our eyes on it once every permit cycle, which is once every 5 years. And of course, Heather prioritizes these based on when she looks at all the reports, who's not done what they said they were supposed to do last year, right? So we go out and we have done, we call them internally audits to differentiate, but that it's an inspection. These are formal inspections. And we have now inspected 608 SCMs.
I remember when it was 30 looked like a daunting number.
Yes.
When we would get to that is
Yeah.
freaking.
And Heather, we have, how many more that are about to be closed out? Probably in the next few months?
Yeah, at least 5 this year, so we'll get it to 170.
Yeah, so we're getting up there. We're getting up there. All right, pollution prevention for town facilities. This is a very important part of our program because I feel like we got to set the example. So if we're going to go out and you know, regulate the HOAs and say, hey, you have to do this to keep your SCM compliant, or don't be dumping this down the ditch. We want to set a good example. And of course, when we started this process, there wasn't. And this is really another term that people use for this is good housekeeping. And the pictures tell the story there. So you can see in 2010, when, you know, I think in the milestones, we started doing inspections of town facilities in 2008. This is from a 2010 inspection. And, you know, I asked Public Works, I said, you know, can we find a better way? It's jumping on me again, so we'll just go. We've done 297 inspections of town facilities, plus follow-up inspections. We inspect the high-risk facilities like the wastewater plant, water treatment plant, et cetera, every year. The town hall or town annex, we do once every permit cycle because again, they're not storing, I don't think they're storing anything here.
Storing anything, Eric?
No, hope not. And then I went back and looked and we've resolved 39 issues, and that picture is a good one. This is how it looked now. And I will say that we did during our audit go visit the what's now the Adrian Thompson facility where Public Works and utilities were, and they were pretty pleased. You know, they didn't have a whole lot to say about what the facility looked like. So yeah, I don't know what's going on other than I need to speak faster. Part of our pollution prevention program is MS4 maintenance. Now, this is the part that a lot of our residents like because it improves their drainage. But the real purpose is to remove pollutants, but it kind of goes hand in hand. If your catch basin gets filled with trash, junk, debris, dirt, whatever, it's not going to function correctly and you're going to get nuisance flooding. And so we probably in the last 10 or so years just started tracking these numbers, but Public Works is in charge of this, but they have cleaned 632 catch basins in the 20 years. Swales and ditches maintained, so this is just like you see in the picture, digging them out, making sure that they're functioning, but also removing trash, etc. Almost 46,000 linear feet that they have done. They now do a more proactive inspection. this past year was a little hard, as y'all can imagine, with the flooding, the storms, but they'll get back to that. In fact, I think they already have. And then I want y'all to pay attention. So if you remember our 63,000 pounds, this is what Public Works has removed in 20 years. Just by maintaining catch bases, cleaning out catch bases, maintaining ditches. But wait, there's more. Okay, we also.
This is in addition to the other
Yes.
trash.
Yes. Just this is what blew me away. So we also have a street sweeping program. So we hire a contractor that comes in once a month. And they focus primarily on our curb and gutter streets. There's a couple like the King Street area because it's so visible. We want to keep that looking nice. But and now this number includes dirt, debris, sediment, grit, grimes, cigarette butts, whatever else is in the street. It could be trash and debris.
Wow.
Whoa.
So if y'all are keeping score, if you do the math real quick, I gotta look at my cheat sheet to give you the numbers.
How many tons is that?
139 tons total that the stormwater program has accounted for between Public Works and our volunteers. 139 tons of trash removed. I think that's pretty impressive. It might also be pretty sad. We hope that things are a little bit cleaner, and we'll see how we do with our cleanups this week. Public assistance, we will go out if somebody calls us, and almost invariably, most of the time, it's about drainage issues, and drainage issues on private property are generally the property owner's responsibility, but we like to give a little guidance. We want to make sure we're providing good customer service. And we don't necessarily resolve these because to us, we may have resolved it, but to the resident, they may not like the answer that says, oh, you've got to take care of this problem. But we have been, and this is just residential properties, but we've been to 215 different residences in 20 years to talk with people about stream buffers, stormwater runoff, drainage issues. Sometimes we can help because sometimes it's their driveway pipe that's in the right of way that's the issue. And we go, oh, here, let me call Public Works, and they're out there. So they appreciate that. But sometimes they have to hire contractors and they may ask questions, and we just try to give them a little guidance. We can't give them any design help or anything like that. We just want them to do the right thing. We do promote green infrastructure type things like soil improvement, rain gardens, and those sort of things. But so we've done that. Riparian buffers, as the milestone said, we have delegated authority from the state to enforce the new buffers. That includes doing stream determinations. All of us are certified by the state to do those. We have done 90. So we go out, and the picture here is a good example. What you're seeing is it's a little channel, but that's an ephemeral channel. It's not regulated. But as that goes down under the road and on the other side, it becomes a creek. And so where does it become a creek? So we go out and make those identifications. And then we do, because we allow certain impacts in the riparian buffer. We almost all of it has to come through our office. We do a review. They have to submit the information, and then we do a buffer authorization. And we've only done 35, but that's because we've done a better job of educating folks. Hey, let's leave it alone if we can. Watershed improvement projects. This is our very first one. This is back in 2008. This was a joint project. This is a little rain garden project near the Farmers Market Pavilion on the county property. But town public works staff delivered the soil media. They dug out the hole. And then I want y'all to take, even back in 2008, my supervisory skills were remarkable. Look at the lean on that shovel. No, I'm kidding.
It's the dark hair.
Well, that's what changed in 20 years. Good heavens. But no, that was our first one. Like y'all know, we are required to do these projects now under the Falls Lake rules and the IAIA with the UNRVA partnership. And we've completed 21. And I was trying to think what other numbers. And I thought, well, they provide a lot of benefits, but you can't measure the benefits. But there's a few that these projects do benefit. And you see that we put education and public involvement, that's almost a given on all of these. And then, you know, I mentioned we wear a lot of hats. So this is what HR would call other duties as assigned. So we support other town departments, other divisions. We work very closely, especially within our own department, with planning, with engineering, with public spaces. We also are very involved with various organizations, regional organizations, some there like the UNRBA that you're familiar with, the Clean Water Education Partnership. And that list could be bigger, and it's really based on the collective abilities of the staff. What is our background? What is our knowledge base? Where can we help out? So we do a lot of that. And so with that, I'm going to gently send this down and ask Heather to come up. And she's going to talk about some of our watershed projects.
Thanks, Terry. So if I want to advance safely. Let me just turn this. Okay, that's what I'll see if I have any better luck or not. You should be good now. Okay. I only have 4 slides, so just, is it best to just do there? I would do that. Okay, great. So here's a list of our recently completed projects. And last time I talked with you all, I believe I talked about the Odie Street green infrastructure. So that has progressed in that there were some areas along that street that were ditches, but we couldn't place bioswales, like the bioswale here on the slide, because there was too much flow. And then we started to look at closely, we scored it and actually scored as a jurisdictional stream. So the only option we had was to restore the stream, restore more of the natural features there. And so that does fit within the idea of green infrastructure. And as a reminder, green infrastructure, the idea is that you're going towards those stormwater and those water quality benefits. But since we're investing in that area already, what can we do to improve the local ecosystem? What can we do to provide the community benefits? And so that was the goal of that project and many of our green infrastructure projects. But then with the stream stabilization, we're trying to restore it to more of a natural stream. And that could be providing flood mitigation benefits, more aquatic habitat, as well as improving the water quality and just making it look nicer. So we did just that. We partnered with Piedmont Conservation Council and other partners. We found a grant, and about a year ago, perfect timing. It really was. We kicked off the construction and completed it. I need to, slow it down a little bit, but
This is a timer on this presentation that someone enabled accidentally.
Yeah, and I did turn it off, but I think it's because it's already in front of. Sorry.
Okay, so this is a before and after shot of one of the channel sections, and as you can see, it started out as a ditch that you might see in an unimproved area. And the stabilization project opened up the channel, so there's more capacity, there's different types of habitat, there's a deep pool and an area that's more of a riffle, shallow area. And there are lots of plants planted. It's a little hard to see them in this picture. We had to plant them right away to make sure that the shape would stay put if it rained. But then 4 months later, they started to grow in more. And then that photo of 1 year I took a week ago. So it's looking great. We're still working on planting more plants and controlling the invasive species and then monitoring to make sure that this project is long-term going to be providing the functions of a natural stream. So this is just another example of what we can do while we're investing in the requirements of the Falls Lake rules, how we can benefit the community. So we're looking at some future projects. There's a dam on the Eno River that used to serve the Eno Mill. And so removing that dam is going to provide safety, community benefits, as well as for the ecology of the river. And we're also looking at a compost blanket downtown in the parking area between Margaret and King Street. And we're also exploring the idea of
beginning the process of watershed restoration plans, stream restoration plans, and this shows an example of one in Durham. This is the Third Fork Creek watershed plan, a map of the different opportunities, and the idea is that you just kind of step back, and say, where are the best opportunities in that area where all the water collects in a major stream? And how can we find the most benefit with these projects? And so you collect data, you assess all the streams within that watershed, and you can bring the public together to provide input. And then in the end, you may have a list of the best projects and reasons why. And it really backs up any decisions that you make in the future. And then we can just hit the ground running to apply for grants, leverage our funding, and find more of these benefits. So just an idea of what we're looking at in the future. And now I'm gonna hand it off to Claire.
One question, where's the Eno Mill Dam?
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to figure that out. It's
See
one
it.
over.
So
Yeah.
it is near Allison Street or, Mountain Street, if you prefer. There is a low head weir dam there. It actually, based on the preliminary research we've done, is that we are probably, we being the town, the owner of that, because we own the riparian land there that is part of Riverwalk. There's an old intake, there's some hazards associated with it, and so there is some interest in looking at that and just removing that dam for ecological purposes. But it actually could improve flood mitigation on a very minor scale, not what we saw this past year. There's nothing we could have done to mitigate that, but so yeah, that's where it is.
I remember seeing that dam when I was down there.
I'm sorry?
I remember seeing that dam when I was
Yes.
a little kid. and
Yes.
It looked scary.
Yeah.
When I-
Well, and it is for paddlers. I mean, it does create a hydraulic below it. That's very dangerous, even for people that wade out there and they could get sucked in that and pulled in. There's just a lot of different things and benefits that, since it's no longer needed.
Well, looks like that bank right there on the northern side of it, like is starting to, like a couple of trees just fell out of there.
Yes, we had those removed because of the downstream sewer infrastructure, the two large trees. And so that area actually, we would include in this project as a permanent river access, but it would be designed so that people could safely get down, no erosion issues, that sort of thing. So that's hopefully something we'll be able to get.
Thank you, Heather.
Later.
Well, there's 4 slides. I have 3 slides. Alrighty, so I'm in charge of the illicit discharge and elimination part of the permit. So I'm gonna talk about 2 incidences that have occurred in the 2 years that I've been here that might be fun or funky. The first one is the Circle K gas station. We were doing preventative cleaning of the storm drain, only to find that it smelled like gasoline. And so we were trying to figure out what was going on with that. And then in partnership with Orange County and CDEQ, us and the gas station owner, we figured out that it was just an abandoned pipe. But we were able to work with the owner of the gas station to come up with a solution to fix that. And then we ended up clearing out the pipe, which is what is pictured here. And then sealed that pipe up. So there was no NOV issued with this particular incident. The other one that I was going to talk about today is what Terry has already referenced, where we had neon green water flowing through the town cemetery. Kids could blow if they played in this. So that was a problem, and we went ahead and addressed that. We did issue an NOV for this particular site, given that it reached so many eyes and really needed to be addressed. But the owner of the car wash was able to hire a cleaner to come out and an environmental cleaner to come out and clean up the stream. I also did a pollution prevention inspection to make sure that this wouldn't happen again. And then worked with them to make sure that anything else that could even remotely be a problem has been addressed. So that NOV has been cleared up or resolved. And then lastly, I've been working on Creek Week a lot. So that is happening this week. I've been working with a whole bunch of local organizations in Orange County. So UNC Chapel Hill, Town of Carrboro, Chapel Hill, to put all of these events together. And then kind of spread the word so that people can get involved in learning about the streams and your local waterways. The end.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. So with that, I will open up to any questions, comments for either myself or my staff. I just want to say thank you for 20 years of Stormwater. Pretty cool.
Thank you, Terry. On behalf of the board, we say congratulations. Sounds like it has been a very successful and impactful 20 years.
We hope
See
so.
that long of a view of the work, it's just really impressive.
Thank
So,
you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for all that you and Heather and Claire did.
Great. Thank you.
Other comments,
That's
questions?
that's a long time I remember the first. The 30 looked so daunting, and to see what has been done, it's amazing. It's incredible work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a few questions for you, Terry, and that's
Okay.
mostly things that are coming back to life in my mind from kind of informal chats you and I've had, just socializing and such. But one of the questions I have, or both of them actually tie back to the car wash. One is, I think you had mentioned the possibility of getting a contract with folks that can do hazardous removals, in case a property owner can't be reached or that sort of thing, and I was wondering.
Right, yeah, that's one of the things that we've discussed, and basically it would be like an on-call service. So we would go through that process, and we do have authority under our illicit discharge ordinance that if we had to contract, because these cleanup contractors will not start work until they have a contract either with the owner or the insurance company. And we feel like if we, with the car wash, if we could have gotten, and the fire department acted quickly and tried to contain it, but they didn't have what was needed. If we could have picked up the phone with somebody that was on call and had them there within an hour, it could have been, it would have saved the property owner more money. So when they got the bill from us, they would have been happier. But yes, thank you. That is one thing that I think we'll want to bring back for y'all to consider at some point.
And then from that experience, do we anticipate any ordinance changes coming our way?
The only thing with illicit discharge, and this is something that we found out and Bob and I have discussed on many occasions, is that our illicit discharge ordinance and the enabling legislation and the Clean Water Act, it's all about our police power, town limits. We cannot legally enforce our illicit discharge ordinance outside of town limits. Well, in the ETJ, we have some issues that have come up. Now, fortunately, they were also involved in environmental health and they were able to issue an NOV. But what we have since found out, again, through our audit process and through some other research, that we should be able to develop either when we renew our interlocal agreement with Orange County Erosion Control, which we are in the process, we're having discussions, or it may be an MOU. But basically, we're going to ask the county for permission to allow us to enforce that in the ETJ. And that apparently, and of course, Bob, you chime in, but that apparently will allow us to do that and fill that hole in the donut.
You know, we do that through interlocal agreement, so, you know, if we work those terms out, we should be able to implement that.
Yeah,
The county would just delegate their authority to
Essentially
the
in
town.
in the ETJ area, for example, where we have zoning authority, there could be an agreement that says you also have stormwater illicit discharge authority.
Well, because there also seems to be a conflict where we can permit something, but then we can't really enforce
No,
certain
absolutely.
things
Yeah.
after we rezoned it or permitted it or.
Yeah, so yeah, that's something else that hopefully we've been having discussions, it is next on my priority list to work on that agreement. And so y'all be seeing it sometime in 6 to 8 months, I would imagine.
I don't have any questions, just comments. This is phenomenal work. It's great to see, that growth and development over 20 years, going from basically nothing to 3 full-time staff. All the wonderful improvements we kind of see throughout the town. I love how you work with so many different departments and organizations, local and statewide and sometimes nationally. I'm just curious over all the things that you all done. Do you have a favorite sort of project or something? I mean, I have my favorite projects, but I'm just curious if you guys have, one or two stand out for you that
I think the Odie Street project overall has been a really good one, and even though I was on the periphery and Heather really did the lion's share of managing that project, there was just so many things about it that we want to try to replicate. So that was certainly one. The other thing that stands out, I guess, in my mind, for me personally, is the effort it took to get those legacy SCMs and people doing that maintenance. I mean, I think I made people cry. I had, as we sent out letters, there were people from HOAs that came to my office and thought I was going to throw them in jail. And, so that was a big thing. But I think because we did that work, we now have a pretty good program with our SCMs.
I also, I remember many years ago when each municipality, I'm not sure, I don't know about the county, but was doing kind of their own creek week things, and they were kind of disjointed, and I love now that y'all are kind of coordinating that and doing it kind of together.
Yeah, I think that's been really good because it takes a little pressure off of the individual staff. So if we have 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 events and Carrboro and now we're getting, River Association involved in some of these other groups. And so it just makes it a better.
See, I was looking at some in Chapel Hill too, and they were pushing out the events up here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just neat to see that. So, good work. My favorite, one that y'all have done is Case Creek Park. That kind of started out with just big riprap and, it's a beautiful kind of rain garden.
That's been an interesting, so again, working with Stephanie on that one, we've done multiple projects there. So, it was as a park that was designed and built by a developer and turned over to the town. The bioretention was there. They weren't even required to put one in, but they put one in. We're happy to do that. And I went out to look at it once construction was done and watched all the runoff go down the parking lot and bypass said bioretention. So we did a project to fix that. The whole riprap thing, it was, what do we do with this? And our safety officer, of course, said, well, you're gonna have to put up a fence, and the cost of doing that. So we found some solutions. And of course, the compost blankets, they're huge success. And one more thing that with Cates Creek Park, so maybe that is probably my overall favorite, but if you go down there and you look at the bioretention, you're going to see a little fenced in area. So we are working with the tree board. This is an idea hatched by the tree board because when they remove the invasives, they need to plant things. Well, of course, they run out of funds or whatever. And so the idea, a lot of the riparian plantings are live stakes. So you can take a willow, cut the stick it in the ground, it's going to grow roots. So we are doing a pilot project. We have a live stake nursery within the basin of the bioretention. It was a grass bioretention to begin with. Many bioretentions have trees and shrubs. So we're hoping this will work and so yeah, thank you.
Another good work.
Thank you. Any other questions or praise for Terry, Heather, and Claire? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Last on our decision agenda is a settlement agreement for KEPSC Hillsborough LLC versus Town of Hillsborough.
And this is the same, it's the same settlement agreement we've been talking about for at least several weeks now, if not months. You know, if we approve the settlement agreement, the next thing that's gonna happen is we'll go to court to get a court order telling us to implement the settlement agreement. And then, after we have the court order, then the rezoning development agreement will come back with this board. The planning board, considered that the development agreement and the rezoning last week, and they recommended approval. So I don't know how much depth you want me to go into, because we've been talking about this kind of ad nauseum for a while. But,
For the benefit of the public, would you confirm that once agreement is approved, that we will know that we will no longer be at risk of being sued for the damages?
yeah, well, absolutely, Commissioner Ferguson, part of the settlement agreement is the release of each other from all claims, et cetera, that we may have against each other. Part of the lawsuit involved claims that could have resulted in, you know, seven-figure damages. Could have resulted in an award of attorney's fees. That is, if everything went against us, that was a possibility. And regardless, if we continue with the litigation, it was gonna cost the town ultimately probably six figures in attorney's fees and the like. So considering everything and considering the history of the property, and I think that everyone would like to see the property put to some kind of beneficial use. As we got into the litigation and before we got into it too far, we had a mediated settlement conference as was required by. And the settlement that we're talking about, it came about as a result of that conference.
Can I ask a procedural question, and we'll go around the table and ask other questions? That is that the planning board, remind us, what did the planning board review and or approve?
They had everything that you have in front of you, they had in front of them. And since they don't really have a say about the settlement agreement, they didn't make a specific recommendation about the settlement agreement, but with respect to the rezoning and the proposed development agreement, they recommended approval of those actions by the board.
And then tonight, the request is for this board to approve the agreement.
The settlement agreement, yes.
And then you would take it to court for the judge's
Yes,
review and or
Yes,
further action.
Sometime in the next couple of weeks, we'll get it in front of probably Judge Medor. He's sitting here, this term.
And then after that, then it comes back to the board to make a
For final determination on the rezoning and development agreement. Exactly.
Rob, do you have any questions?
I don't have questions.
Nope. All done with mine? Okay.
I don't have any further questions.
I have no questions. While I am glad to see that this releases the town from substantial financial harm that I think would be devastating. I do also want to put on record that I do view the developer to be bullying, exploitive, and a bad actor. And absolutely uncaring about the town or the residents. With that, I absolutely, because this is necessary, will vote to approve it. We need to do it. But I do so because it's the lesser of evils and not because I think this is a delightful project.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution. Approve the settlement agreement.
Second. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Matt. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. And Bob, thank you to you and Katie, and the team, the people who've worked, a long time to get us to.
Yeah, I mean, Matt was right, and Marie and Shannon and Stephanie, I mean, you know, there was a team that worked together to try to bring this to an end. So
Y'all were heroic.
kudos to them.
absolutely heroic going through this.
Okay, on to item number 6, committee updates and reports, Kevin.
Actually, tomorrow is housing, the Regional Housing Committee meeting, with Central Pines. We are discussing with the committee, the data model that actually, the TPO utilizes. So that'll end up being the basis for the regional plan, as well as discussing the 21st century legislation that it's getting pretty close. And the tax loopholes, and talk about that a little bit further. Excuse me. And then we will have a coming meeting. My blip, I can't remember if it's full board or executive committee, that's coming up this week. And tonight was Orange, the partnership in homelessness. They're still doing that reconstitution. I was not able to attend tonight. So, but I will have meetings, so it's about it right now. And I did attend the housing seminar. And tomorrow is also another housing seminar, but I do not remember who it is, but I want to say it's at national level. I want to say it's NLC that's moving on. And I forgot, and we also had from the National Association of Regional Councils, we had our housing committee. We actually heard from that standpoint from Atlanta's Regional Council and their work on youth homelessness, and some of this stuff we are doing with the Central Pines, some of the mechanisms to do with our region. It's not, but it's interesting how the region is supporting data behind the scenes to support all of the COCs in that region. So looking at point in time counts, looking at the work they're doing at that regional level to help the regional governments make decisions supporting homelessness, which is part of the overall housing continuum.
So I also attended the municipal perspectives on housing from the North Carolina League of Municipalities last week. It was nice that they had Representative Jay Adams on talking about HB 765 and the challenges that municipalities have now with that law and how possibly have corrections done to that. Also talked with Hunter Fillers, who is I'll have a meeting with him eventually to talk about the town's affordable housing strategy and what we kind of bring that all together and what we might see in the future. So that was a good meeting, just gathering information from us all. I believe you Mark, that working also.
And for clarity, Hunter is staffed into the regional housing committee.
And then this last week, I met with or had UNRPA. We discussed some of the challenges right now with the rural development of what the UNRPA is proposing versus what the state is proposing and how those discrepancies affect each of the municipalities and the water and sewer utilities. There's a lot still to be worked out. I'm not sure if Terry was gonna go maybe more into that in a future meeting when we get something more concrete. But still going, I just had a lot of back and forth between the two to try to figure out what's the best way to focus on that. And actually in our packet, I believe, sorry, I got an email from Terry also, but I believe it was in our packet too. There's some updates on the UNRPA. If I'm not confusing the two. Okay, all right. So there's some thoughts in there too. That's all I have right now.
I did not have swag or TPO in the last 2 weeks, but we do have TPO tomorrow morning, bright and early. And in terms of other things, I spoke on the 14th at the event honoring Ann Clark Hooper, the wife of William Hooper, signer from Hillsborough at the Old Town Cemetery. So that was great. So I can't be there.
Yep, because I'm on that board. I think Matt, you are too, aren't you?
Which fourth?
Museum.
Music, no,
Not for
just,
2 years.
that's right, you rolled up. I'm getting my boards confused, don't mind me.
And I also met with Hunter from Central Pines, had a great conversation. I was really glad to see him filling that role for this engagement with Hillsborough because he has experience in Orange County. He really understands. That's awesome. I also attended a webinar last week about housing. And then on the 20th, I did a very comprehensive tour of the water system with Representative Price to help refresh her understanding of where we are with our capacity and our needs and things. And we had a special guest appearance by 3 bald eagles. On the reservoir. So that's the first time I've ever seen that. Bald eagles flying, cavorting. They're really large.
Yeah.
I thought so.
They're honking huge.
This is the reservoir. And that's it.
They've had it.
So as Mayor Mark said, we have our TPO meeting tomorrow. But we did have our Visitors Bureau meeting last week. One of the interesting things is the partnership and how it came around with Visitors Bureau and partnering with other groups to bring in the Savannah Bananas and whatnot. UNC is looking for other ways to bring big acts to Kenan Stadium and to campus in general. Mostly because they need NIL money at UNC for the athletic programs, and so they're trying to find other ways to monetize the athletic assets that it has. And so there may be some additional potential for collaboration. But after the last meeting where we talked through a whole bunch of different things, we dialed it back after receiving the strategic planning presentation to say, rather than immediately respond, let's just have an extended meeting of 2 to 3 hours, really talk through what it is that we want to achieve and systematize, looking at, where do we need to change the structure of the Visitors Bureau? Where do we need to look at in terms of our messaging or communications or mission or vision, that sort of thing. And also trying to figure a good way to better articulate the impact that something like the Visitors Bureau has, in part because the county took our fund balance last year to balance the books. And that's, I think, one of the reasons some members are inclined towards a TDA model, because county would not have been able to do that in that situation. So we're gonna meet in June. We're ready to talk through all the things, but there may be some need for some legislative changes, even if we don't go a TDA route, that there might still be some changes, because the law hasn't changed since 1994 or so when it was first implemented. And our legislation is way outside the committee guidelines on what this occupancy tax countywide should look like. So it'll be interesting to go down that route as we figure out who we are and go through apparently the required decennial identity crisis that the Visitors Bureau seems to have. But I'll report back when I know more.
Thank you. Ralph?
I just had one Parks and Recreation Board meeting last week. The Parks and Recreation Board approved, and they're sending us basically a recommendation. They approved the master plan for Kings Highway Park. And we should be seeing that shortly for our approval. We did have a presentation from actually one of the Parks and Recreation Board members, who's a Girl Scout, she's a middle schooler. And they did a presentation on universal design, because they want us to, it's gonna be coming, I think, to us in April as a ordinance, basically to think about universal design, when we are developing things in public space moving forward. So thinking the overall kind of aspects of that design and how, like anybody, any age would be able to kind of utilize and move forward with that. So it's very interesting and intriguing sort of presentation. Plan, that's pretty much it. I did sit in on a, intercity visit, planning things today.
Where are we going?
So they narrowed down to, I think, 2, Fayetteville and Cambridge, but then Charlottesville came into discussion today.
Arkansas, I assume, Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Yes.
That would be a good one.
But there was a lot of
I would say Oxford, if it's good enough for Anthony Bourdain, it's good enough for us.
today's conversation was mostly centered around Charlottesville and then, and there's some good things that Charlottesville has kind of done in the recent past. One of the things that they have done is they have a workforce, development plan. They have similar sort of unhoused issues that we all kind of deal with. They have the downtown action plan. So there's more discussion that happened, but it's kind of, yeah, the other part of it was travel and cost. And so that's why Charlottesville was so appealing to.
Have we narrowed down the dates, specific dates?
September. So that's another thing is it would affect, right now they're looking, the dates are September 27, 28, 29, which we have a town board meeting on the 28th. So that would impact that. But it's just discussion right now.
I can see why, it's the thing with Charlottesville in part because we could get a bus and go up there if we needed to, because I've looked at some flights lately in the last week for different things and they
Yeah,
count
it's-
a lot.
So that was really the reason they kind of, looked at some other alternatives because of just the uncertainty of what that is gonna cost 6 months from now. Or whatever it is. Where Charlottesville and in a bus was possible. Not that they're not ruling out flying there too, but it's got some opinions sort of things. As a obviously medical school, they had a research park that economic development park that they built, which is probably 10 miles or whatever from the city of Charlottesville, so it's not real.
I know,
Icon City is looking to do, but
They've got biotech because my old company's is one of their major sites is there. Before the company, before it was taken over by Icon, one of the precursor companies or the merged in, had their headquarters there.
the other thing with Charlottesville, I think they're coming to Chapel Hill and May this year.
We do some reciprocity.
Yeah, so maybe that's helpful.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Anything else for the good of the board?
One thing too, we need to on Women's, because we talked about Women's, that's in May this year, so we can get that time because the flights, that's gonna be kind of bloody. If I remember correctly, I believe it's gonna be in Broken Bow, but I'm not, she's outside Tulsa, but I have to double check.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kathleen. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. That's it, Matt.